Me too. I'm a stan of his mom. It made me Yes, and I also know that everyone was like, "Oh, this whore, how dare she? She's a mother." And I'm like, I'm ready for these photos to be like her like doing lines like off of like, I don't know, Prince. And it was just her dancing in a club. I was like, "Guys, right." Well, obviously because he he's the fucking president. Right. 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 Well, how about don't marry children and torment them if you don't want a mentally ill wife? How about that? Oh, I'm on her side. I couldn't be more on her side. Um, so Justin Trudeau is like if um that is crazy, but also he's like if JFK Jr. had not uh gotten shot down. You know. All right. Okay, also I found that we need to talk about this Davide. I endorsed him only to find out that he's a monster. Literally 24 hours. I was like, oh, maybe F1 TV isn't so bad. Like, I've watched it a couple times. Like, this guy seems funny. He's super charismatic. No. Here is, I'm going to read to you the what he said to get himself kicked off of Sky Italy. Do you know how bad you have to be to get kicked off of Sky Italy for being sexist? Oh, Bernie Ecclestone was there? I haven't listen. I am no fan of Ralph Schumacher, but also I don't know. This is crazy. He okay. Matteo Bobby was he is who is still with Sky Italy. Speaking about a woman standing behind them. Oh, I haven't watched the podium yet. Bernie Ecclestone gave out the trophies. Uh, every time I see him, I'm like, how is he not dead yet? Which I know, knock on wood, I'm inviting negative energy. Like, I shouldn't think that. But okay, ready? He goes, there's a nice upgrade package behind you, talking about a woman who presumably works in the paddock. Um, and then he said, yes, and I know, unfortunately, I've been told that we can't test them. I okay. I would just like to revoke my previous endorsement. Yeah, I did not know that he was a freak, and not in a good way. A freak in a bad way. That's great. And the fact that he got suspended from Sky Italy and F1 TV hired him filed under my anti F1 TV opinions. Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, obviously you want to know. Because I'm no listen, that's just being nosy. And I one thing about me is I'll always be nosy. I'm sorry. I do want to know. No, it's horrible no matter who it is. I'm just curious. No, that's very fair. No, I too would would like to know who well, it's like the okay, it's like when they did the hottest woman in the paddock poll. Should you be doing that? Absolutely fucking not. However, I think you gotta release the votes. Like, that is my I'm like, I feel like if you do it's a little bit different than that because that's terrible no matter what. But I feel like with the hottest woman in the paddock, I feel like if you do an open ballot, maybe I don't it's probably not less bad, but I'm like, I would accept that if you release the votes. But I also think it's we gotta be doing hottest person in the paddock. No, because what about gay people? Or you could just pick which one you wanna vote for. I wanna vote for the women too, though. But I think that you just gotta yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. Okay, we'll do that. And like prom king. That series of events is like by far the craziest. That one interview he did where he was like, we call Nico Brittany because he's so beautiful. And he just like talks about it like really unprompted. Um, but but the upset of the century was finding out that I think it was Seb that voted for Nico as the most beautiful woman in the paddock, which I'm like, oh, you were definitely being mean then. Oh no, I think he's mocking. I think he's mocking Nico, and I don't like it. Oh, I don't think he's calling him gay. I think they're saying you look like a girl, which is like, oh no, I mean it's inappropriate, obviously, to speculate on people's sexualities, but unfortunately, I do think that Max Verstappen is has told us that he's bisexual. Like he keeps like he has on many occasions been like whatever man or woman that you date, like or a woman or man, I'd like to and like stuff like that. Also his car being a boy, side eye. And also the multiple and then also when he was naming off dating apps and putting Grinder second, fascinating. I mean, I know what Grinder is. You don't have to be on Grinder to know what Grinder is, but yeah, we got right, right, right. To be fair, or like I don't know, what's that one that celebrities use? That one. Okay, let's leave that poor woman alone. Not even a woman. She's like, how old could she be? Okay, wait. This is we have a good question from how low does Grinder need to be for it not to be suspicious? I think 4 or 5. Well, Raya, because the famous people. Those are the only dating apps I know about. Yeah. To be fair, I might say you might get Grinder fourth for me because I don't know that I would remember Raya in that moment, but I also don't really use dating apps. So I mean, there's a zillion. There's like, I know there's like. Oh my God, can you fucking imagine me on Chris Mingle? Right. Like clearly you need to or maybe that's just also what the Christians are Googling. If I know there's farmers only. I'm not a farmer, so I guess I'm not allowed on farmers only. I feel like there's gonna be a demographics problem with that one, but yes, rant away. Yeah, he did well. He did what he needed to do this weekend. Well, we had I would say I think there's nothing in the first 50 laps that Oscar was sitting in Lando's DRS that indicates to me that another 10 laps sitting in his DRS would have substantially changed the outcome. Fernando one stopped and it worked kind of. Sorry, I stole that from Lars in my chat. I didn't remember that. Because they didn't. No, I agree. This is where the conspiracy lies. The Oscar people are way too focused on Franco. The only reason McLaren pit him again is to try to keep the peace because they didn't want to. Because if it worked, then it would have seemed like they were screwing over Lando. No, and also someone pointed out in the chat, which I remember from the time, he if they held off pitting him so he wouldn't undercut Lando or overcut Lando. But that's where but then you're in the same place. Yeah. No, I think well, but that's where because here's the thing, like gone are the days of the 2007 McLaren where the pit walls can operate independently from each other. You got to pull a Sebastian Vettel in Russia 2019 and take the reins and say, I'm pitting when I'm pitting, and you can put the tires on or you cannot. But that's the reins and say, I'm pitting when I'm pitting, and you can put the tires on or you cannot. But that's because, but I mean, and to be fair to Oscar, like, not to do the own narrative that I make fun of. It's his, it's he's a fifth season rookie, but it is your first championship fight where you really do need to be start thinking about things big picture independently from the team and know when to push and know when to not. And like that's an art. So I that is something that I think will probably take him a little bit more time to catch on to. But um, I think if you're yeah, but that is I think in that situation, the driver has to be like, "All right, I'm taking the fucking wheel." But also, I feel like from Oscar's perspective, he's ahead of Lando in the championship by like a decent margin. He's P2. Like, why rock the boat here when like he can just it's not that he doesn't lose that many points. And I just feel like right. And I feel like if you're Oscar, you look at what happened the rest of the season and you're like, there's gonna be more races where like Lando you know gets stuck behind Charles or does like or loses 6 places at the start or like whatever like there are going to be like I feel like if you're Oscar in that situation you stay I understand. Yes. And while I do think that like there's something to be said for the attitude of like you're going to scrap over every single little like thing and whatever but I think that within when you're especially when you're it's within your own team, it can be wise to not bring it to that level until you need to. And Oscar is in the driver's seat at the moment, so like there's no need for him to just pit anyway or stay out and like cause this whole drama with the pit wall by going rogue. Where and now they're gonna if you go rogue, there's the chance that they favor Lando even more. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. I know, and they're the queens of splitting strategy. They always split the strategy. The Lewis thing is weird. I I have to go back and watch the like Lewis's onboard because I was listening to his radio and he was the thing is he said he wanted to one stop but then like he said that in the pit lane and I because I was listening to his radio because I thought he was maybe gonna one stop so I was listening to his radio and he was complaining about his tires and so I was like okay so there's no way he's one stopping um and then I maybe he said something else in between then and there, but I'm like, "Bestie, if you wanted to one stop, you gotta tell them that before you're physically in the pit lane getting your second stop." But maybe he did. Yeah. He was yeah, I didn't see that part on his team radio. I saw that part on the main broadcast, but he was being like, your before he was like my tires aren't gonna make it to the end of the race. So I don't know. Yeah. I think that No, I actually am yeah, I actually don't think they should be trying shit. Let's focus on getting the regular strategy right before we start getting I think Ferrari are the I think I don't think Ferrari I would never encourage Ferrari to get creative. So, that's no. No, 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 no. The problem is that they need hards in Hungary. I would like Ferrari to remain within the box because I don't have confidence in the box enough. It couldn't be worse. It really couldn't be worse. Yeah, I mean, you're not do you have a math degree? Because you need one to do this job. Okay, that's fair. You guys have a Nate Silver? I thought they just shipped him up there. Well, that's Nate Silver has to be annoying. It's part of his programming. People get so mad at him, and I'm like, "Come on, guys, like, leave leave him alone. It's part of it. It's part of it." Hell yeah. Hell yeah. French tea. Wait, have you seen Russian Jenny Ellen? I'm obsessed with her. Why? Why is no one investigating how there's two of this woman? That's like it's crazy that they have the same haircut and they're both like these tiny women because that implies the existence of other Janet Yellens around. Are we being controlled by an underground network of Janet Yellens? This is what we need to be looking into. Um, but yes, the I love that there's multiple. I love that there's a Nate. Do you guys have a Kornacki? I need a Kornacki verse stat. Oh no! See, I don't think you gotta. Also, or Janet Yellen's the real lizard people is very funny. But someone said, Chris said, asking Ferrari to get creative is like asking a toddler with a toy saxophone to play jazz. Well, I mean, because they weren't beating McLaren. Yeah, because well, that's a whole separate topic, but like that's the car. Like they have that's like they weren't getting unless the creativity was attaching wings to the car, they were not catching that McLaren. Okay, but McLaren wasn't 30 seconds faster than the field at that point. I've been I yes, that's true. But I feel like today was they had solid points. Oh, see, that's where our disconnect is happening because you're underestimating Ferrari's ability to fuck things up. They could have easily lost that three. Oh yeah. Also, them putting Charles out into traffic. It's like, girl, it was fine, but like, mhm. They're just so slow, and these, and also Charles was still lifting and coasting from the fucking formation lap. Well, the this bottom upgrade was supposed to fix that, but maybe they were worried. Oh, the real upgrades. Maybe the real upgrades were the friends we made along the way. Honestly, I I just keep repeating. Sometimes I just say it out loud to myself in this apartment because find myself sitting here thinking about all of the, well, the rear suspension is also supposed to address the plank wear, or maybe this was addressing the tire cooling. It was addressing one of them, but they, yeah, oh yeah. Now the upgrades aren't coming in Silverstone every time we get. No. Well, to be fair, the initial reporting said Silverstone at the earliest. So I never thought they were coming in Silverstone because I know how this game works. But yeah, now they say not Silverstone. So Spa at the earliest. And I'm like, honestly, imagine if they did solve all of the problems with this. I think we need to abolish Italy as a nation. Like, so you could have fixed it 3 years ago, because this whole suspension thing, it's way above my head, but there's been a fundamental disagreement about like the core decision of like push pod. It's like push rod versus pull rod, but then it's also like what, like the way that it's situated in the car. And Ferrari finally capitulated on one of those like last year, but not the other one. And then like now they're capitulating. If Yeah, actually. Yes. Somehow, yeah. Well, no, but also it's it's not even the initial decision that I blame. It's the stubborn refusal to admit that you have made the wrong decision. The longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive it's going to be to get home. You know what I mean? Like it's a and really it's crazy that like Ferrari has all of these disparate unrelated problems, but they come back every single one of them to their truly, like they just cannot ever psychologically admit when they made a mistake. It's like dealing with a 4-year-old that like has Cheeto friggin' dust all over their face and is like, I didn't eat the Cheetos. And they're like standing on business because they're fucking 4 and they don't realize that they're a bad liar. Ferrari would still be running 0 side pods if they were in Mercedes position. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, it's better than 0. Yeah, it was. Not me. Yeah. Well, duh. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're staying up having sleepovers, braiding each other's hair, but I never got the impression that Lewis particularly dislikes George. Oh my God, Franco telling everyone and their mother about getting to go on Lewis's jet is actually my favorite thing in the whole world because literally same bestie. If I went on Lewis Hamilton's jet, y'all would never hear the end of it. You would never hear the end of it. I would tell if someone said hi to me in the grocery store, I would be like, "Do you know I went on Lewis Hamilton's jet?" Wait, also very funny though because so obviously during the peak of the Taylor Swift jet drama, I hesitate to even say peak. It just comes up like every 6 months. The Taylor Swift has a private jet, and I'm like, you guys got to find a new slant. Like, I'm so sorry. I mean, it is, but like, listen, I personally save the earth. I would never own a private jet. Um, Mostly because I'm scared of them, but also it is bad for the earth. However, it's such a reach. It's so funny. I'm like, you guys want something so bad. But because I'm like, the thing is, the reason I don't think it's not because I don't think it's worthy of criticism, but because the people doing this very much are like the deepest in the deep of stan culture. And I'm like, if you think that every celebrity who has the money to isn't flying on a private jet, you're out of your goddamn mind. Um, and this Right, I was gonna say, I think Gracie but this right, and this, like, obviously trickled down into the F1 one, and th people were like the Lewis fans were well, not all of them. There were many that were like, "Guys, Lewis definitely flies private," because they're normal people who, understand how being rich works, but they right, right. No well, and it's also like when you travel that like, I gotta be real with you. Again, not to die on the hill of defending private jet use, but um because I'm also of the opinion that like they crash all the time and like if you die in a private jet crash, I don't feel bad for you even a little bit. So I will not put one toe on one. Let me tell you that right now. But if you, when you travel as much as the F1 drivers do, and it's also like you're going there to do a sport, like the like your physical condition and like how tired you are and like the effort that flying commercial takes out of you, like is a factor, you know what I mean? Like they're doing all of this crazy shit to prepare. Like, of course, most like flying private for those probably eliminates a whole level of like stress and logistics that like just doesn't need to be in place. Personally, I find it crazy that like, I think I don't they should all do what the McLaren I don't know if McLaren does it for all their races or just here or like they have a team plane. You know what I mean? Like football teams do. And they all fly together there on that plane. Yeah, I mean, they must be. They're not being they're not being paid private jet money? I I think I know McLaren does a charter, but or I've seen it. I would think it. I I think in many cases, yes. But I don't know, that would be an interesting question to ask someone who worked for a team because I would think. Right. But well, but no, I actually because some in the chat they uh Laser made a good point. It's like, are they filing expense reports? I would think it would be more cost effective to have a charter flight than it would be to reimburse that many people individually for flights. Yeah, because like obviously they're covering the flights in some capacity. So I would think. Well, and the travel is part of the cost cap. So presumably the initial investment of the plane obviously would be, and maybe it wouldn't be more effective because I do know that it's really expensive to keep because I have a friend who is a private jet pilot and he gets paid like an unspeakable amount of money and then they also have to when he's like quote unquote because they keep he'll fly somewhere and then like they're gonna fly back like he's on call for certain like amounts of time so like they also pay him as if he's flying for those or like I think half the rate or like something like that for those hours and then when he is flying he gets like money for that and then they also pay him a retainer on top of that and then and now I don't know if yes, you have to they pay for his accommodation and a per diem for like he because he's technically well, actually he's not on retainer all of those days, but he said he actually prefers it that way because that way he can like drink during their vacation for at least like a couple nights, you know what I mean? Um, but also like maintaining that plane, you gotta put it somewhere. Like it can't be. Yeah, so I know Ferrari does Visa Jet sponsor. So I bet you actually that would be a smart way to do it, especially because it's cost cap to get a private jets, a charter plane sponsor, and then um have everyone fly together on that. Okay, yes. Wait, I have to pee though, so pause. Give your thoughts. I'll give my pen back. I'm back, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I yes, you are. I I feel like they yeah, the for I think that what happens this year with Ferrari is just like kind of irrelevant. I I I feel like it hinges on the whole well, even implying that Charles might possibly even have one flicker of a thought in his mind that he might leave Ferrari is obviously sacrilegious and will get you burned at the stake like you're yeah, and people were I made a video being like, whatever. People get real it's honestly so it's like low key very parasocial. And I will say this, like people get mad when people are like, "Oh, maybe Charles," like when they speculate, do very normal career speculations for an F1 driver for Charles because they're like, he has said he's always going to stay with Ferrari. Like you're going against his wishes by saying it's whatever. And it's like, okay, well, like, first of all, I'm not saying like I'm not going to support Charles Leclerc if he does like whatever. And also, he's a different person than me. I can have my own opinions separate from Charles Leclerc about what is going on within the professional realm of Formula One. This isn't me being like, I don't think he should date his girlfriend. You know what I mean? This is people have opinions about what teams drivers should and shouldn't go to. And of course, at the end of the day, it's their decision. But that doesn't mean we're not going to speculate about silly season. What are we doing here? Like, that's crazy. But I also think that like right now there is like Charles isn't going to go to McLaren. And so the gap is like we have to see and also where everything is about to change. So like it makes no sense to do it like let's see if they can Ferrari can do it in the next 2 years and if they can't, I think that Charles has to have a have a real honest conversation with himself because like that's at the end of the day all that matters. Would you rather but of course he does. Right. Which of those he has to have a serious conversation with himself if he is okay with never getting the chance to fight for a title because he stays would he rather stay at Ferrari his whole career or get a chance to fight? But I also think that his worry and the worry that I would have if I were in that situation is like, well, what if I leave and then they become competitive? But it's like, even if they're competitive, that's only step one on this ladder. Like, they're going to still sabotage you the entire, and not sabotage is almost the wrong word because it's not intentional, but like, they're still gonna leave the fuel hose attached to your car 3 races before the championship deciding race, you know what I mean? And just completely nerf a 24-point differential you could have gotten. It wasn't 24 points at that time, I think it was like 18, but you know what I mean. Right. Yeah. But, like, that's not but also right. No, yeah. It's just I guess the idea I mean, we'll see what happens in the next 2 years, but the idea that Ferrari is gonna magically become something that they haven't been in the last 20 years, and even when Kimi Räikkönen did it, it wasn't like it wasn't because the Ferrari was acting in a substantially different manner. I mean, they were better, like the car was certainly better, but there was also like that was only Ross Brawn left. Well, and also you had Fernando was too it wasn't that McLarens took points away from each other by beating each other in races. That really like that argument to me is like kind of silly. If it wouldn't have been a problem, Fernando was so had his world rocked by Lewis that he wasn't like he was so obsessed with beating Lewis that like he forgot about Kimmy. And also both of them made stupid mistakes. Like Fernando crashing out in Japan like on his own and that awful dangerous pit lane line that reached out with its little sentient hands and grabbed Lewis Hamilton's tire and forced him to spin off in China. But it's also like Lewis, like they made mistakes that mm, Lewis Hamilton would not make today. You know what I mean? It was his first season. Like let's BFFR, and that's what like people love to be like, oh, well, Ferrari screwed over Fernando, which like that's true. Like there were definitely instances where like Fernando they did they were Ferrarying. However, and their development was bad. A tale as old as time. However, at the end of the day, 2010, Ferrari didn't make him qualify P5 in Abu Dhabi. That was all his own doing. Ferrari isn't the reason he couldn't pass Vitaly Petrov. It's just um the way he simply neglected to turn, you know what I mean? The way he simply was like, actually, right. There was no, I didn't even realize he was making a move when I first watched it. That's how bad it was. I was like, is he just driving straight? Like, what's going like he tried to, he turned at the corner. Like he was already parallel to the corner when he started turning. listen, listen. Oh. Listen, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has those days, but that was pretty rogue behavior from our boy. Listen. Oops. Yeah, but the Imola one wasn't okay, but wasn't the Imola one his car just his engine just stopped? Oh, yeah. So But that to me is more promising than someone who is P7 every single time, you know? Yeah, you just tell them you gotta turn before the corner, bestie. Problem solved. Like, listen, rogue behavior from yeah, and Max didn't even wanna be there anyway. No. Yeah, it was probably P5. I just yeah, like, the thought like, here's the thing. He simply did not turn, you know? And I wanna be like, if I was I wouldn't like, they were very nice to him in the interview, which, like, I think they should be that, whatever. But I would be like, "Listen, no hate, no shade, but, like, I need you to walk me through the thought process of physically not turning your wheel because, like, that's only gonna end one way, girl." Yeah, I mean, whatever. Does that no, because it doesn't go to the cost cap, no? It's just, like, for the company? No, McLaren no, Mercedes doesn't need that because they're one of the most profitable car companies in the world, which is something that, not a lot of other teams on the grid can say. Total Wolf has money, like, don't be greedy, Total Wolf. He shouldn't even be taking a salary, like, what are you doing here? We need to think strategically. Same, because also something I think about all the time is that so obviously the driver pay is not included in the cost cap, but this is something I think about in regards to the Ferrari of it all. Because but and so the two highest paid team members do are also excluded from the cost cap, which is oh, maybe it could be three. It could be three. Um, so if I'm Total Wolf, I say bet I'm not taking a salary, and that way we can bump another person on because presumably the team principal is the highest paid team member. And so I would be like, perfect, we can bump someone else up out of the cost cap. You know what I mean? Like you no. Because he's own yeah. Because it's what he's being paid for his role as team principal. The owner of Mercedes because then it's like, oh, are they going to count every time Mercedes stock goes up? You know what I mean? Like they're so and also you couldn't plan for that because you don't know what dividend Toto Wolf is going to get at the end of the year. Like Mercedes could, their factory could explode, a ship could sink. You know what I mean? Like you don't. So I think that if you're Toto Wolf, you have unlimited money. If he is taking a salary, that is genuinely malpractice. No, Monaco does not have a capital gains tax, and that's why they all live there. Because if you're something that's interesting about the British tax system is that if you're so they have a territorial tax system. So if you don't live there, you don't got to pay taxes usually being the operative word. So if you're British and you work for a British company, you still have to pay taxes. So Lewis Hamilton, the whole time he was working for Mercedes, was still paying income taxes because Mercedes Formula 1 team is a British company. So, like Lando is still paying taxes, but on his income from McLaren. So, like his salary. However, the reason they all still live there is because they don't have to pay taxes on all their investments, and most of their money, like Lando Norris, his father is so rich, most of his money is coming from a trust fund, most likely. Right, right, exactly. Or if you were really cheeky about it by Mercedes, you could pay Lewis from Mercedes Corp, which is a German company. I don't know if that how legal that would be, but there are bonuses here get taxed as compensation. So, yeah. I well, because they were offered in they were yeah, they were giving them bonuses in stock basically, so they didn't have to pay taxes on them. Oh, well, I would like my bonuses not to be taxed. Thank you very much. Well, that's the whole thing. It's like everybody complains about tax evasion. I was like, have a real tax code. If I moved to Monaco tomorrow, my ass would still be paying taxes, and I think that that's fair because guess what? If something, if I get sick, I can still go to the U.S. embassy and ask for help. If I lose my passport, they still have to give me a new one. If I get myself in Saudi Arabian prison, they still have to deal with that situation. Like the State Department still has to deal with that situation. Like even if I'm not physically residing in the United States, I enjoy right, like I enjoy the benefits. Even if you take out the whole argument of like I do feel a moral obligation to pay into the system that I got so much from. But also aside from that, exactly right. And I do think like I there are reasons that people are paying billions of dollars for EU and or millions of dollars for EU and American passports. It's very convenient. I You get virtually visa free travel to a lot of places or virtually free travel basically everywhere. And I do have the layer of protection of knowing that the embassy, yeah, the government's going to be like, right. They're gonna be like, and now, do I think that they always go about that in the most fair way? No, but they will at least be like, hey, could you give her back? You know what I mean? Um, but and like, yeah, I just personally I am not for a territorial taxation system. Um, because I also think it encourages rich people to leave, which so why would um, and I also think that like there's and everyone because in the US this is very unpopular. Everyone complains about it, but I'm like, there's a reason you haven't given up your citizenship. You know what I mean? You could easily do that. You have it somewhere else. So like it it does hold value because the person who hates paying these taxes so much you're still doing it. You know what I mean? Like even though you could give it up. Um yeah, I feel like that's probably fair. It was turn 1, but that was pretty rogue behavior. I mean, he didn't turn. Yeah, no. Yeah. No, Kevin Magnuson is the perfect mold because he's good enough that you're like, you like him. You know what I mean? It's not like annoying, but he's also a demon. Oh no, what is it? Is it raining? Hell yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yes. Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sure. Oh, I forgot that Silverstone is next week. I'm excited for that. That will be very interesting. Home, no, sure didn't. I'm going home. I've done maybe. Well, yeah, because it's so embarrassing to do it in front of my family. They but well, on Sunday, no, on Sunday I'll be on the train, I think. No, I'm flying back. Um, ooh, I was, but unfortunately, I the thing about Amtrak is it is significantly cheaper if you book it like a month or two ahead of time, but this was kind of a last minute decision. So flying was a lot cheaper, and B, I just it there was no good options for the train Wednesday night. So I was like, I don't want to I want to be home Thursday. I don't want to spend all of Thursday on a train. Um like I want to go to the beach, so I'm just going to fly. No, my car's here. I have it. It's just not registered to me yet because my so when you buy insurance, it doesn't kick in to the end of the month, which is annoying as fuck. And so so when I went to register it, they were like, you need to come back when this kicks in. So I just have to do that on Tuesday. Oh, I had to go to the DMV 4 separate times because you have to go for well, in my defense, I had to change my license over, which I hadn't done, which is bad because I've lived here for like 10 years. But the but no, you want to know the real reason I didn't? Because so when you no, because when you go so I actually have a Connecticut license, which is like extra rogue because right, exactly. And so no, so my parents lived there briefly. And but the yeah, like nobody the address on that license, I don't know who resides at that residence at that time. I just didn't feel like going back to the DMV. But when you when you drive in a foreign country, sometimes you have to have an international driver's license, but every country has a list of states that you don't have to do that. They just accept that state's license. And I am dying. I need it's nothing has fascinated me like this in a long time because I'm like, I must know the selection criteria because it's always like 10 to 35 states. Like it's never all of them, but it's never none of them. And it's like different every single time. No, I already had a real ID because as a chronic license loser, I had to do that forever ago. But the the It is. But so you have to but so no. Um, so you but the no, they Connecticut is on all of them, like, every single one. Um, and freaking yeah, and DC is on none of them. And you know what I think it is? I think in order to get that, I think that this is a scam for local governments to be going on these like delegations to like negotiate this. And like, they're like, oh, let's go to Paris and like we can sign this agreement, which I low key support, to be honest. Because they're getting something done. I like that if I get to, as long as I can use my driver's license, you can spend my tax dollars on a vacation. I think that that's a fair shake. But but yeah, so now I have to fucking go to the State Department and get an international driver's license. But yeah, I know. But first I have to get this fucking this stupid I have to register my car and then I have to get the parking pass. And then I have to I did get my visa approved though for Italy because we now have to have visa travel to Europe. Prison. Uh, I yeah, it's it makes me irrationally angry that they did that, but and people are like, "Well, they have to have a visa to come here." And I'm like, "Well, you know, when we subsidize your entire national not me turning into Donald Trump when they were like, you need to fill out one form to come here." And I was like, "Make America great." I'm obviously joking. But yes, so I was approved. Thank you, Italy and Iceland, because I'm flying through Iceland. Um, yes. Yeah, it's the best because okay, of all of this is something I have actually deeply and strongly held opinions on. If you're trying to fly to Europe on the cheap, there are one of four places that you're going to fly through. Copenhagen, Reykjavik, Portugal, or Paris. Sometimes Dublin. I've never done Dublin. Sometimes that's an option, but not usually. That's like only if you're flying Dublin Air. Reykjavik, Paris, and Portugal. I would say are like the main ones. Copenhagen is more if you're flying like Lufthansa or something like, which is like a little bit higher end than. And then obviously if you're flying like BA, you're gonna fly through London. That's fine. But like those are like you might as well just fly direct on a cheaper airline if you're gonna fly Lufthansa or BA. But so going through, I'm talking about the $400 flights here. You know what I mean? So and of all of those, the definitive ranking is Reykjavik 1, Port Copenhagen 2, Portugal 3, Paris 45. Because I will say the one downside of Reykjavik, and I noticed this in Stockholm too, um, why is there no food in the airports of Northern Europe? That's why everyone's so goddamn skinny there. They're not eating anything. Yeah, the Iceland airport was there. At least there were some. There wasn't no food, although I did. There was mold on my chicken Caesar salad, so that was. I didn't appreciate that, but you know what? I picked the moldy pieces off and ate it anyway, and I didn't die. So shout out to them. But Iceland does have a Sbarro in the airport, so I did get a terrible piece of pizza, but that was in like a completely separate area. But and I have the same beef with Heathrow, by the way. Terminal 5. They just built this big fancy new terminal. Why are there 10 separate stores where I can buy a $45,000 purse and two places where I can get something to eat? That does not seem like a ratio that should exist. You know what I mean? And I fly into wherever is cheapest. I have no loyalty. And also, I was personally wronged by Gatwick once because when I went to Silverstone, I brought all of my camping equipment in a duffel bag, which was crazy behavior, and I had to walk from where I got off my plane in Gatwick to the exit of the airport. I would conservatively estimate 9 miles was how far I had to walk. My shoulder was sore for days. For days. Oh, I'm a LaGuardia defender. I'm a LaGuardia defender. There's a train! There's a train! Maybe so. Yes, the new LaGuardia, old LaGuardia used to be a little bit dicey. Amtrak. Oh, see, yeah, there's no Metro Northern Jersey Transit to LaGuardia. I should clarify, but you can. Oh no, I'm thinking of Newark. I'm thinking of Newark. But I will say maybe I just am overly defensive. I never fly into or out of New York, so if I was home, I would fly out of Boston, and if I was yeah, like so I've never had any reason to fly out of New York, but I when I flew home from Silverstone, actually, it's funny that I was just talking about that. I oh no, from Race of Champions. After being stuck in the Stockholm airport for 12 hours with no you know what I had for dinner? A sleeve of Pringles and reindeer beef jerky because that was 100% of the options available. And I'm sorry to the reindeer. I'm sorry to the reindeer, but they're good as fuck. I can't recommend eating them more. They're delicious. But sorry to I think well, I wanna eat a boy one, so let's see, what do we think? Dixon? That's probably a boy. I ate Dixon. They but landing in LaGuardia and going to just whatever shitty fast casual restaurant, it felt what I imagine an oasis looked like after a desert. I was like, I could have kissed the ground in that moment. I was like, fine. Because also the Stockholm airport is so nice. Like they have wood floors in their airport. Real wood floors in their airport. Bougie as hell. Nice as hell. But two things, you have no food. So I'm gonna throw a flag right there. And number two, I got yelled at for sitting on one of the couches. Why have the couch? Oh god. Okay, well, show me one other person besides Max Verstappen who can. So, and then, yeah, someone asked. The couch was an art installation. I didn't know, but in my defense, it was a couch. Like, it was fully a couch. Like, there was no, I was not the only person, by the way, sitting on this couch because it was fully a couch. Who puts a couch in an airport as an art installation that you can't touch? Come on, that's entrapment right there if I've ever seen it. But yes, circling back to Christian Horner, w uh, okay. Well, okay. That's my response. Okay, Christian Horner. Then put someone in there who can do it. Dude, that's your job, is it not? No, put Yup. MPA for Isaac. Yeah. No, he's fine. He's Pierre. You know what I mean? Like that's no, certainly not. Well, it's also kind of like they're doing the Ferrari thing with the second seat. Like, and granted, obviously, the caliber of the drivers that Ferrari are trying to claim suck are much higher. But still, it's like, okay, it's Pierre, it's Alex, it's Checo, it's Liam, it's Yuki. It's like, how many people is it gonna be? You know what I mean? They all and right. And also, he was doing well at like he there was a significant fall off in his own performance that compared to himself that he could not like overcome. Right. That he could not get back to. So it's like I do understand the decision in that capacity and I think they gave him a lot of leeway because I think they wanted him to get back to that, particularly Horner. But yeah, I don't think firing Checo necessarily is the problem, but I also it's like I guess I just what do you do? Like I we don't really know, but it's like how much is being done to try to assess what the fuck is going on? Because like clearly something is up at this point, you know? Yeah. Yeah, that's the best thing that ever happened to Liam Lawson. Okay, let's put Max this is a great idea. Put Max in the Toro Rosso and then promote both Isaac and Liam. And I mean both no, keep Yuki there. Promote actually not Isaac, my sweet angel. Promote Liam and just see what happens. Because then let's get to fixing the car. Because Max, I feel like, is almost he's obviously not hurting them in the grand scheme of things because he's keeping them like literally alive. But I feel like he is allowing them to be delusional because he's just being Max and because he I think, you know, because his dad raised him in a Siberian prison camp, he has the ability to drive to mask a lot more issues with a car than drivers who have been in the best car their whole career and whose dads didn't force them to go out in a random car in the snow and drive 100 laps. You know what I mean? Like it's I feel like they need to get their shit together and Max and also I don't think it's Max's fault because like he has the correct priorities, but when they're listening to him with development, he doesn't care about making the car drivable. Well, he does to an extent, but if he had to choose between making it faster and making it he only started caring about it not being drivable when it became so undrivable that it was impossible to drive it fast. You know what I mean? Yes. Well, yes. Oh my god, also I hope he's okay, but maybe his wife just had a baby or something. But they okay. I mean, it could just be a family. Yeah. No, I mean, not hopefully. I obviously hope everyone related to him is okay, but it could just be like a family leave thing or whatever. But I was like, "Oh my god, I hope he's not like really sick or something." Like that would be really sad. Um Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah, you just never know. Like maybe one of the kids is having a surgery or something. It could be a million things. And but yeah. So but the this is a pro GP space. It's also a pro Max space in a weird way. Um I think I think the two of us are more pro Max than most non-Max fans are. Same. Because I could fix him. I could fix him. Unfortunately, Max Verstappen, if you want to know what my type is, Max Verstappen. Like, yes, he's a good. I am always partial to good characters in Formula One. It's why I could never truly hate Fernando, even though, like, I should. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like, if you look at my other staunchly held grudges, but like Fernando, you, I, I will always respect anyone who goes all in on being themselves. You know what I mean? And you can't say that Fernando Alonso hasn't done that. Him sitting in front of the Drive to Survive chair and being like, "There are hero in Formula One, there are heroes and villains, and I'm the villain." And I was like, "That's so fucking cunt." But the thing is, I it's so funny that this Max media thing all started in Drive to Survive, but I also get it because I'm always like lean into being the villain, like just do it. But this is why I think I have a little bit of a soft spot for Max because I don't think I'd be able to do it either. I want people to like me, you know what I mean? And I think Max, like, he like thinks he like tries to lean into being the villain, but then whenever someone like people are like, "You're being a villain," he's like, I'm just a boy," and I'm like, "Okay, Max," but like that would also be me because they're the same person. George is just George is just the aggressively British version of Max, which does make him far more annoying. But that's why they hate's a strong word, but that's why they like they're back and forth. If that had been anyone else and Max had been like, he tried to get me, like, I think Max's little tantrum about George was kind of silly because Max, you have definitely, I mean, we're not in the sewage room, so we don't know for sure. But you're telling me that you've never advocated for someone to get a penalty when you didn't really think it was probably deserving of one. I find that difficult to believe. And also, his main gripe was that George said one thing to his face and another thing in the steward's room. And then we get the video of them talking about it in the media pen. And George said exactly what he said in the media room or in the steward's room and to the media to Max's face. And, but so it could have easily, anyone else would have just let it die out there, or maybe said a little jab back in the press conference and whatever. George Russell, yeah. And I say this as a whiny bitch myself, so no hate, no shade. Um, but the the 5 paragraph essay that George Russell wrote about Max Verstappen after that incident was so that I think is genuinely the funniest thing a person has ever done. Like the way I was reading the article on my phone, and every time a paragraph ended, I expected the statement to be over, and then every single time it was not. Like it was genuinely, it just kept going. It just kept going. And like the statement of Anytime he does not get what he wants, he lashes out with unnecessary anger and borderline violence. Like the way it was, he's not wrong, but the spoken word poetry of it, borderline violence. Hit Valerie Bottas on the head. That listen, yeah, if you yeah, yeah. Oh, I yeah, that is wild work by George Russell. I feel like that is I mean, you know that I don't subscribe to I think that they should be allowed a certain level of physical violence within the confines of the pit lane directed toward each other. You know what I think we should you should be allowed to fight people in the pit lane. Controversial take lightly lightly shove it. Okay, also, the way people act like he sucker punched Esteban Ocon when Esteban was stepping into Max's personal space and Max shoved to even say he shoved him, I think is an overstatement. He like lightly pushes his shoulder. Like it really wasn't like the overstatement of that incident is kind of crazy. Um so funny. And Esteban holding his hands up like, "Oh, I don't know." Like you okay, the person who brings it to the level of physical contact is of course always going to be in the wrong. However, to act like Esteban was not being confrontational in that moment is a little bit crazy. And also, I think they should be allowed to fight each other in the pit lane. You know what I mean? Um, no, no. We have to watch it illegally online. I'm not giving it $1. Well, I mean, yeah, trust tree, but yeah, I'm not paying for that movie. I'm not giving. Listen, I love you, Sir Lewis Hamilton. I love you enough to ignore the fact that you worked with Brad Pitt. I'll do that for you. It's okay. Um, I went to his bar and I went to his bar and I paid $18 for juice. Okay, I'm a Lewis stan, but well, no, sorry, don't put me in that category because then I know you can't ever. But like, I love Lewis. I'm willing to look the other way on the Brad Pitt thing because I also think not a lot of people, it's actually kind of crazy when I talk to people about this in real life. Not many people like actually know about this, that he's a child beater. But personally, I I will never give Brad Pitt $1. And that's something I'm gonna stand on. So my love for Lewis cannot over and also the movie looks bad. So there's that. Yeah, I don't even know how to I've never pirated a movie. Well, actually that's actually not true. The only time I've ever pirated a movie is because I went to see Barbie twice in theaters and then I wanted to watch it again on the internet. I was like, I can't keep going back. Well, also because I wanted to clip the scene. You know, My Dating Life is Pitiful when you know the scene in Barbie where um he's like she's like I just don't want to hurt him and he's like and she's like he tried to take over the government. Like he kicked you out of your house and tried to take over the government and she's like yeah, I guess you're right. When we were watching that in the theater, I went with like a bunch of my friends. They all turned and looked at me to like make eye contact and giggle and I'm like yeah. Rush. Go watch Rush. Yes, sorry. Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, first of all, making them yeah, that's so true. And I think any movie, yeah, any movie where they're hooking up with each other in. I also think you could do a lot of what I would do, I think, is um I would pick, I think, like the not I would do the 1930 no 30 1968 F1 season where because so for the first leading up to August, there were on the first weekend of every month, an F1 driver died. And not always in an F because they used to do like F2 races, hill climb, whatever. But and then Jim Clark died. And then a month later, they roll up to Nürburgring. The most and it is pouring rain. And I would have the centerpiece of like the racing element of the movie be that. And Sir Jockey really did not want to race that weekend. He was like, this isn't. And Ken Tyrrell was like, you have to. And they were like friends. Like they had gone into this kind of together. Like Ken Tyrrell had started the team. And they interview Ken Tyrrell in this Nürburgring book I have. And he was like, that sending him out that day was the biggest regret of my life. Like I was sitting there the whole time being like, I just sent my friend to die. Like if he dies, like I just sent him to die. And he's like, it's like one of my only regrets. And I was like, only, but Bernie Ecclestone is the villain naturally in this tale. And then the race happens. The first thing Jackie Stewart asks when he gets out of the car is who died. And Ken Tiro tells him no one. It's great. They pop the champagne on the pit lane. They start the champagne tradition. And then they host this huge so they all go to Jim Clark's funeral in London and they host this big GPDA meeting after and Jackie Stewart is like something has to be motherfucking done. Like I'm sick of this. I'm sick of whatever. And it was very like and then you get into like the drama of the politics of the GPDA like Jackie Ix, another natural villain. Ferrari will be a villainous figure in this. But then and so it's very split. It's 50-50. They're arguing back and forth. Bruce McLaren steps up and is like, Jackie's right. Like, this is because at this point, they're basically arguing over the concept of if they should try not to die. Like, there were a lot of people who were like, there's no, like, there should be no safety mitigation record, like, things in place because, like, it's racing and if we die, we die. Like, that was kind of the culture of it. And to those, oh my God, terrifying. Thank God. I think that that has gotten less bad over time, actually, but continue. Yeah. Yeah. The Halo has saved many people's lives many days. Yes. It, And yeah, right, and it's crazy that the counter argument is that it's ugly. No. Yes. And they're right. It's the wow, but it's my favorite subject. Yeah, you can. And, like, the halo isn't adding people act like it's, like, adding so much weight. I'm like, "It's fucking made like, there's no it's no, it's not. It's made of carbon fiber." Like, there's absolutely but also, if you really wanted to go green, and I don't know how this would impact safety, but making the cars out of carbon fiber is not very green at all. It's very, very difficult to recycle carbon fiber. And obviously, it's made out of oil, right? Whereas with metal, can be melted down and used again and like the scrap metal can be used and all that stuff like it's far more efficient now it makes the cars heavier, right? That's the obvious trade-off. And then but and so with the hybrid engines that's like not very realistic. I think that if you went back to a regular engine metal cars, that would be better for the earth than whatever the fuck it is Formula E is doing. Hot take. It's actually not a hot take because they use these engines for 3 races. Like, come on. I'm not against the concept of electric engines. They have their time and place, but I think that forcing everyone universally to adopt to drive electric cars is wildly short-sighted and also because most people don't drive that much. Like that's the thing. And also, specifically within the context of Formula 1, it is a fucking crazy argument to argue that hybrid engines are better for the environment than the regular engine given the amount of oil that and gas that they use throughout a race is minuscule compared to like what a regular car would use. They're so wildly efficient and also they're just not driving that much. You know what I mean? Like they're far more and the even the like the emissions from the cars driving around the track is a yeah. And hang on, sorry, my DoorDash person is here. Well, and the idea yeah, that's silly. And all they have to do is The yes, the it's first of all they have to do is bump the start an hour or 2 hours. Like it's not that big of a deal. Um, Also, thinking like the ratings argument is crazy because F1 like offers F1 TV in America. If they cared about their ESPN ratings enough to be scheduling it around other things, they would not be undercutting their own viewership with a streaming service. You know what I mean? Like even right. I will say I think in the indie of it all, like they're just b- it's they have an inferiority complex. That's what it is. Like they just right. And I'm like, just watch like I don't I've never cared about a McLaren driver ever. Well, actually that's such a lie. What are you talking about? Yeah, I just don't. I guess yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum. The Lando and Oscar thing seems like a classic case of like not like we're just gonna pair these two people together because they're teammates and there's not really a great option. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think I personally feel that you could tell that they didn't really fuck with each other. Um, when you look at yeah, no, I mean I know again, I don't yeah, I don't think that they were like, you know, Mark and Seb. Like that's crazy. Like I think they were cool, but like that again was a classic case of like everyone just always ships teammates together. But listen, you're allowed to live your life. You don't have to. But like, where is my James Vallis Toto Wolff fan fiction? That's what I want, and it's not out there, and that's annoying to me. Um, what? I mean, I'll pay you $25 to write that. I am but also like, yes, many people find Lando attractive. And who am I to yuck anyone else's yum? Yeah, yeah, it's oh my god, stop. The way they like look like. But the listen, live your truth. Everybody's into, there are many people who would say that me being willing to risk it all for Sebastian Vettel is crazy. You know what I mean? People have different tastes and I support that. But um he's fine looking. He's a guy. He looks like a guy. But my real problem with the F1 RPF community is which like to be fair, first of all, what I feel like people fail to understand is that like there's RPF of everything. So like we can have the debate, but like I think that like as long as you keep it, you know, not too as long as we keep it like off of Twitter and Instagram, you know what I mean? That is TikTok is tough because it's like it's kind of this hybrid and that's how I feel like we broke containment because TikTok's when it started, it was like it was more of a Tumblr energy where it was a little bit more niche. You know what I mean? It wasn't like mainstream like a lot of the drivers themselves didn't have accounts, and like the teams kind of like barely used their accounts, and it was and but now it's like completely on the level of an Instagram or a Twitter. So it's like right, right. And but that being said, I'm a I saw a great author's note for RPF from a different completely different fandom. And it was if you it was like they give their little disclaimer like this is not reality, like I don't think that this is actually happening, and I do think that that's the line, like when you start to project this on to real people, like and really like be a truther, that's when I think it does like get very toxic very quickly. And this author's note was hilarious because it was like, but the end they ended it with like, if you or anyone you know is depicted in this, or if you're depicted in this, I hope you find what you're looking for. I was like, it's so true though, because like, especially with like things that are published on AO3, I'm like, nobody is stumbling across that. If you found that, you were looking for it. And I also the thing is, I do get both. I empathize with both sides of the argument, and I really don't have a strong stance. However, it does I think I always like try to put myself in the other person's position, and it's not fair because everyone's going to feel different ways about people, so I know that this is a little bit wrong, but if it were me, the way I would be writing fan fiction about myself, like I would be reading it all. I would be leaving comments. I would be giving notes. I would be like, "This is a good one." Like, "Thank you." Right. Right. Yeah. It's hard to argue against it when because especially because I do think that people get a little rogue with it on Twitter, but at the same time when like the fucking Red Bull admin is getting a little rogue with it on Twitter, can you really blame people like that? Yeah. No. Ham Rusty. Oh, ham. But yeah, I guess the counter argument to that is it's not like the drivers themselves doing it, but also like, yeah, he could, yeah, right. It's so fucking funny. The Ham Rusty, I will never get over him. Yeah, Max is the only one. Max is the only one that's old enough to drive the rental car. Yeah. Oh no, Max is a. Oh no, Max. Yeah, Max lurks. Yeah, Max lurks among us, and this is something that I've known and has haunted me for a long time because I also believe that Lewis lurks among us. Not, but this one is more just a hunch. Like Max has made it very clear that he is chronically online, so I'm like, oh my god, like nightmare material. Incident. Well, I have a little bit of a rant on that and like adjacent related topics. Listen, and it's a little like I hate no, I'm not going to say that. I hate people that are insufferable hipsters about the about literal jokes on the internet because like number 1, like I see a lot of unfunny like scroll like they act like seeing that is like a violation of their personal rights. Second of all, not everybody, and I say this as someone who is, but not everybody is consuming every single piece of Formula 1 content that has ever been created. Like that is a very just because we're mentally ill doesn't mean that it's everybody else's problem. You know what I mean? Like it's not old to a lot of people because they're not online 45 hours a day, you know? Right. And also, but also, I am a firm believer of the more you beat a joke in a joke into the ground, the funnier it is. Like I like yes, there's a brief period where it's like old or whatever, but then it comes back around. You know what I mean? And it is so funny because the incident specifically those it's also just another it's just so clearly and it's not just with the incident, it's with all of the things that become like a trope, but it's just so clearly a way for people to be like, I'm a cooler fan than you, and I'm like, you're such a fucking loser. Like the fact that you are caring about that means you're a fucking loser. But also, it's so funny to me because all the specifically Brie the incident joke, the people that are doing that are all of these like hardo Max fans who are hate Lestappen and but definitely care about it way more than anyone who's like, oh, Lestappen and post a picture like once every 2 weeks. It's like you having like they have so much of a stronger reaction to it than anyone who's like pro Lestappen does. But also, it means you right. It's like nothing, like nothing. You're just like you just like it. You right. And right. Yeah, like well, I also think that it's like I think a lot of I also think that a lot of people are like I don't even think it's necessarily like even though like those are for sure ship names, I don't think it's necessarily like inherently romantic. I think a lot of people are deeply invested in they want the Charles Max star-crossed rivals arc to come to fruition, which I do too, okay? It would be a great arc. However, what I think a lot of people bought in a little bit early because as and I've said this before, like the most important part of the arc is the part where they fight each other for a world championship. So if that doesn't happen, you know what I mean? Like the but so I think that that's more what it's about than I think people want them to be Prost and Senna, not lovers. Although I mean I wouldn't mind both, but you know like they and I think that the anti-Lissabon people just don't like women. Yeah. No, our secret lovers. Yeah. No, nobody thinks. Right. Yeah. No, the Lewis that's the thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is I think that people are like again, I think at least from me and from what I've seen the majority of people talking about, the pro Verstappen people, they want them to be Protestant Senate. This isn't they're not because the main anti you're right in that like the people are having two completely different arguments. Like both sides are like they're arguing with each other, but they're having two completely different arguments because right. The anti Lissap people are like, they're not even friends. And I'm like, I don't think anyone is saying that they are. Like, I don't think that that's the point. I think people want them to be Prost and Senna, not, you know, George and Alex. Like, I don't think anyone. Oh my God. Well, that's a whole separate conversation. Like, what does it mean in general? Like, what it, like, nah. I mean, I don't know because I don't know. I think, okay, to me, being friends, and I'm going to view this. Okay, yeah, I think the jet ride. Yeah, I think the jet ride, you could say. Yeah, I guess, I guess I just have a lower bar for the word friend. Why would anyone know about it? No. I mean, I don't know. I don't. Well, I say I think that the bar is not just for F1, but for any co-worker professional situation. And I say this as someone who it does get when you not to compare my life to being a Formula 1 driver, but when you are it's a blurry line because like when you are when your work is like sort of your because they live in this bubble, right? Like even the people they're friends with outside of F1 are like oftentimes like associated with motorsport in some way, right? Or they know them because of their job, like a Calvin, not Calvin Harris, the DJ Martin something. Yes. But the I think the test of any like if you are friends, the friend line is if you hang out outside of work. So I don't know if the private jet counts because you're technically like to and from, you know what I mean? I agree with this comment. Someone said the problem is English. There's not enough words to describe the nuance between friends and acquaintances. That's true. Yeah, and someone else said, I think the only true friends are George and Alex and Charles and Pierre, and that I agree with. But I also think we don't know. I mean, we don't. It depends. I I think that you can become like if I don't know. Let me pick two random people. If Kimmy and I don't know Isaac are they meet through Formula One and they're like playing video games together all the time and they like meet up for yeah. Well, it's the thing is we just can't know because well, we just don't know. We just don't know because we don't know the extent of their relationship outside of Formula One, which is I think what truly defines whether you're friends with someone or not. So like it's impossible to tell. The reason we know about Pierre and Charles and George and Alex is because they talk about and post about hanging out all the time. Yeah. Right. People there could be there could right, there could be there could be drivers that are like playing, I don't know, what's a video game, Call of Duty together every night and like talking on Discord and we don't know. We don't know. So like we it's hard to and that is I will say one thing because like obviously I don't want to fucking dig into these people's lives. Like I only want to know what they want to tell me. It's not my business who they're friends with or who they're not friends with. But from a more macro perspective, I do find the social dynamic of this group of not just the current but of all F1 drivers like incredibly fascinating, specifically because it appears to be pretty your social standing within that group appears to be pretty directly tied to your performance in Formula One, which I find interesting. But then there are these other like I don't know, I find the dynamics of groups very interesting. And weirdly, Drive to Survive does give a if you just watch the footage and don't listen to the narrative that they're telling you and also understand how television shows are shot, you can sort of infer who is hanging out with each other and who isn't. Like the scene of like Pierre and Charles going to dinner when they're filming on the plane and George and Alex are flying together. Like that's never it those things appear to be like normal circumstances that they were like, "Oh, we'll film it this thing like it'll be perfect." You know what I mean? So that is something I find very interesting from Drive to Survive. How yeah. 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 Well, oh, yeah, and this is just me. Right. Well, that's someone just said I love George and Fernando. I have like my pet conspiracy theory is that first of all, these people are definitely partying together in Monaco. And it's not like together in the sense of that like they made a plan and arrived together. Like it's not a big right, and an even more finite number of places where you can go and get the privacy that they clearly get because it's very funny. It's around like 2012, 13, 14. All of a sudden, F1 drivers stopped partying. Like, and I know that they didn't. So that means that like I think that they're all partying together at Flavio's club, and that is why we don't like get pictures. Not that again, I don't want pictures. I think that taking pictures of people in clubs is low key diabolical. But Right. And, yeah, yeah, yeah. But, like, yeah, and, like, George and, like, yeah, George and Fernando partying together on New Year's Eve 2 years in a row is my Roman Empire at Flavio's club. It's also so, like, the my other well, yeah, but I don't feel bad posting it, like, talking about that because he posted it. Right, which is why I'm like, these people are definitely partying together, and one of my favorite things to think about is, like, 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 the squads, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like they must also, when you if you just think about it logistically, not Charles, but the rest of them, when you've moved to Monaco, and it's not like you truly have time to integrate yourself into this community, right? Like you're traveling so much. And even when you're not traveling for work, you're also going home like for the holidays, you're probably with your wherever your family lives, you know what I mean? So they only know each other and the other Formula One people. I mean, I'm sure that's an exaggeration. It's not a strict rule, but they, the people that they know the best there, like, I think the fact that when they're like, normally I would be like, none of these people even probably interact at all outside of work, but they all decided to move into a college dorm together so they don't have to pay taxes, essentially. Monaco is smaller than a college campus, like, and also when it comes to like the social of it all, you don't like when you just move somewhere naturally, like they are like the built-in circle of the people that they know are F1 and drivers and other adjacent personnel. I feel bad for Charles. I feel like he's like low-key a zoo animal in his own home. Right. I have a better test of friendship. I came I mean, men will fuck anyone, so I don't think it would be. That would be psychotic behavior, but yes, I suppose. Right. Yeah. 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 I came up with I think the a good definitive friendship test in terms of like because I consider for like I would call anyone my friend. You know what I mean? Not just like a close person, but I think that if you invite them, like, did you get invited to their birthday party? If they throw like a party, you know what I mean? If you threw a party, not just like a small dinner, I think whoever made the cut for that, friends. Because there's also a difference between being friends and being like close friends. That's true. The victory party. I'm also fascinated by the logistics of the victory party, but I think like what it is I feel like you probably have people that you normally party with on the race weekends, and you go to them and you're like, "Hey, like what's the move or whatever." Like I don't think I would contact unless I went out normally with Charles, but I bet you I feel like I would text Pierre and be like, "What's the move?" And yeah. You and also I'm sure there are like, a coalition building. So like I'm sure that there are like people that like say, I don't know, it's George, Alex and see I feel like they could be a part of the Charles group, but like say they like you I also feel like if you win and you're throwing a party, if I'm Charles, or say you don't have a Pierre, I would send a group text to everyone and be like, this is the party, like here at this time, like everyone's welcome, like come celebrate. And that way it's just like a blanket invite to everybody and people can, come or not on their own. But yes. No, I'm sure there are like countless because there's the GPD. Potentially. Because the GPDA group chat, that's for official business, but like maybe they put it in there. But also the existence of a group chat tells us that there are one infinite subgroup chats, right? That's what the nosy ass bitch in me, that's what I'm interested in. I'm like, all right, like let's dig into this because I love a good group chat. Like, what's the subgroup? I bet you there's a group chat of drivers that live in Monaco. I bet you, like there's definitely an ex. Yeah. Yeah. The paddle, someone said for paddle, like there's probably 1,000 random ones. Yeah, and he was like, text him. Yeah, this is a great question has been posed. Do you think they have an Outlook email for their work that they have to like deal with and manage the calendar and shit, or do you think that they're free of email? Oh, the first thing I would do if I was rich is hire someone to handle my communications. Yeah. I wouldn't well, the thing is, I don't check my email now. So, it's like people are like right, right. They like it's so funny. People are like I mean, maybe I also think it's very possible that I am just not getting invited to things because I do nothing but talk shit publicly on the internet. But people in my life and stuff are like, "Oh, like why didn't you get to go to a free screening of the F1 movie?" And I'm like, "Well, could it be because I've spent 6 months publicly talking shit about it?" But at the same time, I could be yeah. I also um could have been invited and I just don't know because I don't check my email. But the only time I log into that thing is when I need to like do the two-factor like authentication for something. And it did happen that so when they opened the new F1 bar, that I was kind of peeved because I was like, "Come on, man, like I should have I was invited. I got an email. I just didn't see it because I don't check my email." It's a lifestyle. But I mean, obviously I check my personal email because I enjoy money and working and, you have to. But if I didn't need to do that as a core function of my job, I would not check my email. Like I no, I'm very sorry. I do not. Um, but I do not read. Every once in a while I'll peer through the Canadian peephole, see what's going on with you guys. But the my favorite thing in the world is the um the Ottawa commercials I'm getting. Ontario, sorry. Uh we're a safe and stable partner in these trying times and I believe them. I think that they are a safe and stable partner in these trying times. Um, yes. Hell yeah. Is he also on crack? Well, so a businessman is what I'm hearing. His entrepreneurial spirit. Like I would rather deal with the drug dealer than a sex pest, for sure. By and large, by a large margin. Hmm. Probably smart. I'm proud of the Canadians that they care enough about that they felt the need to replace him on the ballot because that wouldn't happen in America. 3 hours is crazy because last cycle in North Carolina, the Republican candidate said, and I quote, I want to bring back slavery. I would love to have a slave." In the comment section, yes, he is black. That somehow I don't think that makes it better though. Like Yes. Oh, and that's not even the "I want to bring back slavery" is not even cracking the top 5 of the most insane statements that this man made. And but the craziest part of the story is that he was not saying this on Twitter or anything. He was saying this on a porn site called nudeafrica.com. And on his profile that he had on nudeafrica.com, he listed his location as Greenboro, and he used his real email that he also used to set up. The funniest part is that he got caught through Pinterest because he also used that email to set up like an official Mark Robinson Pinterest account. And the no, we were talking about Mark. Ooh. um and damn, I did not know that. But Mark well, great. Another opportunity for him to advance his pro-slavery agenda. They and the again, I think I having a profile on nudeafrica.com is something I really can't get over. And I just and like the other things he was saying on there, like it was genuinely slavery was good for black people. But again, terrible things to say, horrible, racist, even though he's black, which is weird. I don't know, but like I'm gonna stand firm in my stance that saying bring back slavery is racist. Um, no matter whose mouth it's coming out of. Um, but I mean, I guess he didn't specify who he wanted, whatever. But the fact that you're saying this in the comment section of a pornography website, you belong in prison. Like that, what? You're a danger to society, in my personal opinion. People in general, but at least if it's something positive toward the entertainer, what I okay, but why are we espousing any political beliefs? Never mind the worst ones on earth. Nudeafrica.com. Nude which and also the funniest part of this is when this story dropped, I googled the quote in quotes with nudeafrica.com and it didn't come up. I went through like 5 pages of search results. So like how I want to know how someone figured this out because maybe like I googled the email cuz I was like, okay, maybe they got the email from the Pinterest account and they just googled the email in quotes to see if there were any other account. Someone had to be on nudeafrica.com because their SEO, this will shock you. The SEO of nudeafrica.com not great. So I want to know who was on. Like, there are so many elements to this that I, ah, no. What do you announce? Hell yeah. Hmm. Interest. Yeah, he needs an editor for sure. And the problem is he's so rightfully well regarded and prestigious as a writer that you need someone of that caliber to be able to tell him no. You know what I mean? Because he does need love him to death. He does need to be told no sometimes. No, I don't think I did. I don't really watch movies to be fair. Did Aaron Sorkin write The Social Network one? Okay. Yeah. Y Well, who directed Moneyball? Let me see. Not direction, he wrote it. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was I thought it was good. I thought it was I thought it was good. I really liked, my favorite Aaron Sorkin movie that I've seen is, the one about the chick that ran the underground gambling ring. I thought that was really good. And of course, Charlie Wilson's War, in my opinion, is like one of the best movies of all time. Um, but oh, he wrote. Yes, you have. But wait, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yes, the pacing, I agree, could have been. Uh, yes, it's. Yes, I did not realize that he wrote the screenplay for A Few Good Men. Yeah, yeah, I knew about American President. Yes. Um, I'm a newsroom defender, even though everyone hates it. But th yeah, that was crazy. I mean, listen, listen. uh, Well, just describe to me who. Yeah, that's true. But also, like, Mackenzie's not on camera talent, right? I defend that purely because I love Sloane so much that I don't. It could be the worst show ever, and I would just still. I'd be there. Um, yes, and it is iconic. I will say, the newsroom is probably where, like, it is the most Aaron Sorkin of all the Aaron Sorkins, which is that it's very preachy, it's very telling you what to think, not showing you. Yes. Uh, right. And I will say the but and I don't really fundamentally disagree with that criticism. Like those are, I yeah, I like agree that that is true of Aaron Sorkin. My beef with that criticism is like that's every single movie that's made nowadays, and none of them are as good at preaching at writing that preaching as Aaron Sorkin. Like at least he makes his preaching an enjoyable experience for me. And also, I think he did something. He accidentally made the newsroom very accurate because it's very preachy and self-righteous, but like anyone who is complaining about that specifically in the context of that show has never interacted with a network journalist in their entire life because they are like that. We're doing Aaron Sorkin hour. Now we're doing newsroom hour today. You got West Wing hour. We talked about Formula One for 2.5 hours, so I feel like this is fair. Oh, I haven't seen that one. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 No, they would. I mean, I don't think I think that this is a very I don't think most people know that they would, but they would. I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. You don't get to where Charlie is by being that dumb. And you think? Yeah. And the thing about like that whole situation is like I feel like you could have made it work if it had been you need to write in a crisis for Will in terms of like okay, like I've had this source like Biden, this mutually beneficial relationship, and like it would be easier and probably more like good for my career long term to just let this slide. Like, do I do the right thing or do I like stay loyal to this person who has like helped me? And that would be you could really get into a kind of an interesting subplot in terms of like the relationship between friendly media and the person where it's like this person's been like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, like you trade access for what is ostensibly positive coverage. It's not quite as nefarious as I'm making it sound, but exploring that dynamic and Will grappling with whether he should betray that dynamic because of like his own like moral beliefs or not could have been really good, but they just for yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 I also think yes. Yeah, that would have been exactly. They could have it was just very yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think the newsroom is a good example of the fact that Aaron Sorkin is an amazing writer, but if you let him, you need to keep him on the rails sometimes. But I feel like movies is almost better to do that than TV shows because also Aaron Sorkin, when he talks about his writing, like he writes as he's going, like he doesn't plan. And I think that there are times where you can tell. And but with the planning, it can go the other way too because like there are times when you're reading something from a writer that is a planner, you can tell. You know what I mean? Where you're like, yeah, and or exactly. Or you they are far too heavy because they know what's going to happen. They're far too heavy-handed with the foreshadowing, and it becomes obvious 100 pages before the thing happens what's going to happen. And so, not again, much like Aaron Sorkin, sometimes you can tell he's not planning, but I think he's also good enough to his writing is entertaining and compelling enough to overcome those little plot holes, so to speak. I think that oh, yes, yes, yes. No, actually. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, but when you right. And I think that there are some writers, the planner writers, who are good enough that I'm like, even though you've made it incredibly clear to me what's going to happen, I am invested enough to read through anyway. But you also run the risk of, okay, well, like now I'm bored because like I know like this is annoying because I know what's about to happen. So like you're trying to, so I think that there are definitely pitfalls to both methods. Um, And but I think specifically for TV writing, Aaron Sorkin suffered from not ironing out the big picture ahead of time. But it's a testament to his writing that he's still like probably one of the best TV writers of all time, even though he was very clearly making shit up on the fly. Well, yeah, that also I think could probably contributed to some of the last minute nature of those scripts. Yes. I also he does a good job in that like I think what makes TV different from movies is that it's not necessarily I mean it is about the plot. Plot is always going to matter, right? It's just like characters obviously fucking matter in the movies. But because it's more long term, the investment and the development and the growth and getting you attached to these characters is far more central than any individual plot or message that you're trying to send in that moment. And that is what Aaron Sorkin is very, very good at, is making you care about these people. Mhm. Yeah. Yes, I know. I will say his portrayal of women in the newsroom is, like, not my fave, but yeah. 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 The way like, also, in the newsroom, it's like, you can it's yeah. When her entire character is, like, based around how competent she is. And also, I feel like what really bothers me is, like, not really even any of the individual actions, it's the fact that, like, as a woman in the workplace, you can be a stone cold bitch or you can be, like, a blubbering idiot who only cares about what your boyfriend is doing. Like, that's basically like, you can be a frigid bitch, Mackenzie Sloan, or you can be Maggie. You know what I mean? Like, there's no nuance. And I think CJ and Donna are, and even that and even Ainsley Hayes for her brief appearance are, and even fuck, what's Mrs. Bartlett's name? Abby. I think they're great characters. I think that I agree that when you listen to, like, how the sausage was made on The West Wing, I think that Allison Janney fought a lot for that character and, like, really did Aaron Sorkin a solid in the long run in terms of, like, advocating for CJ to be well written. But I have less of a problem with it in The West Wing, but, like, you can just tell by the ratio of, like, why is there one woman in that whole show? And Amy, but, like, I don't consider, like, obviously Amy is a recurring character, but, like, I think that in terms of main characters, I think you can argue for Donna as a main character actually, but, like, Wyatt, right. Um, yes. Margaret. Yeah. 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 You're not delving into them. Yeah. Yeah, but it just shows you in the fact that there are of the what, like, 8 main characters, 1.5 of them is a woman. So, there's that. But I mean, it's yeah. I also think it is, the White House of the early aughts, but, like, I don't know how realistic of that is. However, I have less of a problem with it in the West Wing. I think in the newsroom, don't get me wrong, I love Sloan because I am Sloan, but the lack of nuance, well, yeah, absolutely not. But I I think it's a very, like, in hindsight, especially now that much ink has been spilled on the the lack of nuance in a lot of female characters, the the female ensemble of the newsroom does not stand up to the test of time. Like, yeah, you have to, like, fit into one of these two archetypes, and it's like, and then you have, like, Dawn and Will, who are these incredibly, like, nuanced characters with so much depth, and, like, they're, like, kind of morally gray, and it's like, all right, all right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I genuinely think yeah. 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 Hey, no Sloan slander around these parts. No. Yes. That yeah, she did not have much depth. But yeah, I mean, I genuinely think, and this is a crazy take, but like that, and maybe it's just because it deeply impacted my life personally to the point where I started calling myself CJ. But I think that Allison Janney's performance as CJ in The West Wing is one of the greatest acting performances of all time. You think about you think about the icon if you're like, okay, top 10 most iconic West Wing scenes or top 5 most iconic West Wing scenes, there are multiple of them that center around CJ. I think the or and personally, like the Supremes, which is like my favorite episode, like I love that episode because of CJ's performance, or CJ's Allison Janney's performance in that episode. Like when she goes into the Oval Office and she's like, "Get that woman out of this building right fucking now." Oh, chills, chills. Um, and like the jackal, like people consider that to be the greatest West Wing scene. Like, I just I think she is like that is like yeah, like he was helped out a lot by all of those tremendously talented actresses, but especially by Allison Janney because she is one of the best. I mean, it's so hard to pick a best character from that show. Like you could really make an argument for like five different people, but she's definitely a strong fighter in that argument. Yeah. See, I disagree. I think that Josh, not intentionally, but by virtue of what season 6 and 7 ended up being, is the main character of the show. Yes, yes, I agree. But I think that well, it opens, the whole first episode is him calling that Christian fundamentalist lady a whack job. Have PTSD. Oh, yeah, you're right. Um, you're right, you're right, you're right. Yeah, yeah, he Josh takes a minute to ramp up. I also think he benefited from Sam's absence because I will say I love both Josh and Sam in those years, but they're definitely splitting time and I feel like they're half doing two great stories all the time. You know what I mean? And I feel like I Sam is probably the one if I had to criticize The West Wing which I never would, of course, but I would say that I feel like a lot of Sam's, um, like, meaningful, poignant, pivotal scenes don't feel super earned to me in terms of. Right, and I think, yeah, but I think that, yeah, the show, I mean, obviously, the main, like, Bartlett is the main character of the show. He wasn't supposed to be, but Martin Sheen's Martin Sheen, and he became it. But in terms of, like, the most compelling character, I feel like Josh is definitely the one that changes the most throughout, and I just find the most interesting, I guess. I mean, it's a personal, I guess, opinion, but yeah. 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 Yeah, that is my one great big picture criticism is that they don't g and I don't need that much more, but I need more and I want more depth of background and, like, continuity of that story about these people's lives outside of The West Wing. But and I get that, like, you can say that that's an intentional choice, but at the same time, like, it's not because we get that whole episode about CJ and her dad with dementia in, um, and then it's just never mentioned again. Like, they and the thing is, that is a great, like, that was a great. CJ is very avoidant, right? Like, that's a key character trait of hers. And so I thought that that was a great way to, like, explore that. But then we just never, well, she's talking about, we see her, there's actually one scene on the phone, like, later that season around Thanksgiving where she's, like, coordinating care, but we never get a satisfying look into these people's personal lives, which would be fine if they didn't half do it sometimes. You know what I mean? Mandy. Yeah. Yeah. It's also like, the thing is, like, we get it with Toby and, like, the wife and, like, all of that stuff, but we don't, like, we get, like, some of the Josh and Amy stuff, and we get, like, some Josh backstory, but, like, I don't know. It also, I get that they wanted to avoid the, like, office romance angle of it all because Aaron Sorkin was trying to be, like, fancy and above it. Um Mandy had to become a mom on One Tree Hill, higher calling. That's what happened to Ainsley Hayes. She had to go be a detective at CSI Miami. So, um, the but the yeah, I feel like the most unrealistic part of The West Wing is that none of these people were fucking anyone that worked with them. Like, let's be FFR right now. For sure. And I mean, Josh definitely wanted to fuck Donna. Toby and CJ have this weird relationship, but none of that is ever. I wanted a Toby and CJ arc. Okay. Maybe that's what I wanted. And I didn't get it. And they teased me with it, but they wouldn't go there. And it pissed me off. That's true. Danny, I love Danny. Yeah. 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 No, I think the Danny relationship, and that is an area where I do give Aaron Sorkin a little bit of credit, like re his writing of women, but I think Allison Janie's hand probably is there. In that I think that the Danny CJ dynamic could have easily been wildly misogynistic, and I think that it was handled. No, that's why I suspect Allison Janie's hand in it. But at the same time, we do I think with the I don't think it's inherently misogynistic for like this woman like everybody that works that much has inappropriate relationships. Like that just is what it is. But and like they also have the like Josh and Donna of it all. Like they have the Sam and Ainsley thing. So like it's not like although you know what the worst when Toby has that hot assistant and they all just like sexually harass her and laugh about it. They call her a sexual harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. I was like, isn't this supposed to yeah. I was like, isn't and you want me to believe that Toby is like the staunch progressive? Like I don't know. Well, actually, maybe that is realistic, but um yes, but, the I'm not saying it's not realistic. I'm just saying I was like, "Okie dokie artichokey." Well, and it went on way too long. Like, there were multiple episodes of them just, like, blatantly sexually harassing this woman on television, and I'm like, "I think we get the point." And there was the worst part is there was no point to it. Like, the if the plot line was about sexual harassment, sure, fine, whatever. But like, no, this was just like a very casual like line thrown in for comic relief every now and again. And I was like, oh, okay. To be fair, although not to again, this is low key victim blaming, but like it's a TV show. Um, and they dressed her, and I'm talking about it in that way. Her outfit's crazy to be wearing for work at the White House. Like, why are we in a mini skirt and crop top in the West Wing? That just like wouldn't happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was and her like, yeah, get called in, maybe not, but yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, and Josh is like, "Technically, I'm your boss." I also love the Josh and CJ scenes are always my favorite when he's like, "You I don't care, you like, Berkeley feminista," and he was like and he instantly is like, "That was way too far. I'm sorry." He's like, yeah. Yeah, it was like, I think yeah. "You chicks at Berkeley feminista." Okay, too far. That was too far. I'm sorry. Yeah, it wa that, but yes. Mhm. Yes, that is such a good one. My favorite I will say, my favorite episode probably in terms of, like, sheer my favorite plot in terms of sheer, like, entertainment, and I love it so much, and it's also, like, a Josh and CJ thing, is the lemonlyman.com saga. Yeah. I'm actually Googling I literally am Googling right now Lemon Lyman episode, the US Poet Laureate. It Yes, and it is feed it yes, yeah, and it's all about, like, she criticizes the president, um, yeah, yeah, and, yeah, yeah, and they're yeah, they oh, yeah, yes, but no. No, and that's why, I can't do basic math because 'cause I'm like, I could memorize the multiplication tables, but then where would I store my ability to recite the entire Josh and Donna, arc from season 1 through 7 by heart? Like, that's clearly more valuable information. Um, yes. I also love that episode because, that you do get a hint of the Leo Josh father-son dynamic because he's like, Donna's going on a date," and Leo's like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "I'm great." Like he whatever. And then at the I don't care, like blah, 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 and like and then at the end, Leo gave Donna the helicopter so she could still go to New Hampshire and because Josh kept her there so she couldn't go to New Hampshire and they just like make eye contact at the end and Josh knows that he isn't like not in trouble but like that he knows that Leo knows, right? That is one of my favorite obviously I love that episode because I'm a Josh and Donna stan, but that is one of my favorite Leo Josh moments as well because Leo so clearly is like seeing directly through him in that moment. Yes. And I also love that's another great CJ moment in season 7 when they're sitting together in the White House because they're coordinating. Matt Santos is going to come to DC and CJ is like, you need, or no, sorry, this must be earlier, but CJ is like, if you were working for anyone else, she's like, "Are you only staying because you're in love with Josh?" And Donna's like, what? I'm not in love with Josh." And and CJ is like, "Listen, like yes, yes, it was earlier than that." And she was like, "If you were working for anyone else, like you would be like whatever by now. Like this is like, yeah, like he is keeping you in." He's keeping you in servitude because you like, you know what I yeah, and I'm like, that is such a great CJ moment as well. And she's so right. But and then like Donna quits, and like that is just such a good yes, then she quits. And they yeah, it's so that I feel like because I feel like without I feel like the Josh and Donna arc was like partially unintentional, partially intentional. But without that and the CJ Danny thing, and like a little bit Toby and his wife, and then like obviously we're like I think if it was only the Bartlett family and that was the only like personal life stuff we got, I don't think it would have worked because I think in order to make these characters three-dimensional in the way that Aaron Sorkin like did and is so good at, is that you need their outside life to intrude upon the West Wing in a way that gives us a glimpse into who they are outside these walls, right? Yes, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, that's implied, I feel. Yeah. Yes, and she asks when Joey Lucas asks if she's in love with Josh is an iconic moment as well. Okay, wait, I'm gonna let the live go though because I have been live for like 3 hours, but I will see all of you for Silverstone. Very exciting that we're getting to the Silverstone of it all. Yes, it is.